Hello and welcome to another Demis Helen tutorial. We are taking a look at adding reverb to your synths, and more specifically adding a sidechain method. So I've covered this before quite a few years ago, but now I'm going to bring it updated, up to date with like a modern setup and everything, because it was a fairly old version of Cubase and things have changed slightly, only slightly. So we have a lead synth here on channel 1. Channel 2 is a effects track, so the way you do that is right click, add effects channel, name it, and then you can choose your effects, so like tal, and you can put your reverb on there, and then when you click add track, it puts that reverb automatically at the top. So, and obviously that comes pre-faded like that. So one way to add reverb to your synth would be, and just to let you know as well, on the effects channel I've disabled the reverb, so we're working with a more dry signal. So let's go back to the mixer here. We have the dry signal here. So nothing special. It's in dire need of some reverb. So we have the reverb set up here. I'm just going to disable this for a second, so it's just the reverb affecting it. We are now going to go to sends, and I'm going to send it to the reverb channel, which is this one here, the purple fader. Click on and you'll get some reverb. So it's quite intense, there's a lot of reverb there. So I'm just going to turn it down. And then you've got a nice wash of reverb, but that's not what I'm going for. You can also turn this down here to how much signal is affected. Okay, so that's all good and well. You've got some reverb on your channel, and it sounds lovely. But we want to go one step further and do something where we use sidechaining. So sidechaining is usually associated with pump compression, so you get that nice kind of offbeat pumping effect. And we're going to apply the same thing with a trigger, which happens to be a kick drum, just to make it easier to understand. So the kick drum is silent, but it's here. And you'll have noticed it's doing the same rhythm as the synth. Okay, so that's a little bit intense. We're just going to turn that down a second. So you can see it's doing the same rhythm, but we're having it silent. So it's there, it's playing the rhythm, and it's ready to trigger something. So on the reverb channel, we add a sidechain compressor. So let's just activate it, which it is. And I've activated sidechain mode here at the top. Choose any compressor you want. I'm just using this for demonstration purposes. And hit the sidechain button at the bottom and click external. So it's receiving an external source. And then we're going to just leave the settings. I'm leaving the threshold down so you don't hear any effect immediately. And I've turned auto gain off as well, which is important, you'll understand. So we want the trigger to cut the reverb. So we need to go to the sends, and we need to send it to the sidechain reverb and that Pro C2, which is this. So now this kick drum is feeding into this channel and affecting everything on that channel. So we've got the reverb, the synth feeding into the reverb, so the reverb's receiving that signal, but then it's also receiving a signal from this, the trigger, to tell it to compress it to how we want it. So here we are. We'll turn it on. Okay, and you'll get this same blue setting here, and that is pre-fader. So that requires you to have the fader up, but we don't want to hear the kick drum, so we hit this button here to change it to post-fader. So it's receiving that signal permanently, but not audibly to our ears. So let's have a look here. Now it's all set up. You can see there is a signal coming in, and as I start to increase this, that reverb is being cut away, but you're getting the full harmonic dry sound of the synth. Now it does sound a little bit weird at the moment because it seems to be cutting the reverb off and then leaving it at a really low level, and that is down to the release. So what we'll do is we'll increase the threshold to a level I want, and then we'll drop this release so the reverb's coming in a lot faster. And the aim of the game for this is this synth has gaps here, gaps here, gaps there, gaps there. So every single gap between the notes is going to be filled with reverb, but the actual notes aren't going to have any reverb on because they're going to be side-chained off, and that's why the kick drum is following the same pattern, as you can see there. So it's the same pattern as the synth, just on one level for the kick drum to work. Let's head back to the mixer. Okay, so the threshold we're going to just increase to here. So we've got a bit of reduction. Let's have a bit more than that. We'll make it a little bit obvious. So now as I drop this release, you'll hear the effect. You can hear the reverbs coming back into play. If we turn this down, that reverb essentially disappears. So let's turn this up. So you can hear the reverb is hitting after the notes rather than on the notes. Turn this back up. Reverb's is gone because the release is too slow. It's not letting the reverb come back to the full volume. So I have a fairly fast reverb. It's set to a hard knee, and you can have a little bit more control, i.e. with the Pro C2 by activating the high pass filter here, and you can focus it more on the transient of the kick. Have it a bit rounder or really sharp. So you can hear the extremities there when I turn the gain up. It's coming back in after those notes. So I'm just going to round this off, this kick, a bit more, so it's a little bit smoother. Okay, and then we can increase the reverb again. Start balancing it out here using the reverb there. Turn this back down to 0. So you can have a full dry signal and then it takes ages for that reverb to kick in. But you want a nice sweet spot where it sounds natural. Okay, so if we just turn this trigger off for a second, and then we'll turn it back on. It's letting some of them harmonics stay on top of their game rather than being washed over with reverb from the previous notation that has been hitting with the tail of the reverb. So it gives you a little bit of control, and you can obviously tame your reverb a little bit more. So obviously the reverb's set to quite a high wet level there as well with the tal reverb, and it works different with different reverbs because they all have different sounds, but it's a really good way to keep those harmonics coming through. So if we actually chuck that up an octave and listen to this again with this on, it's just... So you're retaining all that harmonic detail without it being smothered. Okay, so that is the tip of this video, is by using Sidechain to obviously cut out your reverb. And you could do this creatively with distortion. So you could have, you wanted the distortion on say those notes only, you could have the trigger on these notes so the distortion doesn't affect them, and it would affect these ones instead, where there would be no trigger notes at the bottom. There's all different things that you can do, but reverb is one of the most effective. So that is the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed, and you'll be able to take away some of the tips that I've just given in this video. I use this technique a lot to ensure that my synths stay on top of the mix a little bit better, instead of just relying on trying to balance that reverb level, so you've got it a little bit too low for what it needs, but that you can have the reverb really pumping through. So if you're going to use that, let me know in the comments, and I will reply to everybody in the first couple of hours. Leave a like, because it really helps other people find my videos, and subscribe if you're not already subscribed, and hit the bell icon, because I upload twice a week, and we're on the March Marathon at the moment, so I'm uploading every single day around 1 p.m. GMT. Make sure you know that it's GMT. And yeah, that's the end of the video. So thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.